Okay, we will call this special council meeting to order at 6:18 PM. And we will adopt the agenda moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item on the agenda is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Is there an interest to declare? Does anybody have an interest? I see none. So move on to staff reports 4.1, Gilmore request to use road allowance supplementary report. Put the motion on the floor by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Lackey. Council approve the bylaw attached as Exhibit A to Planning and Development 2024-058 to authorize the use of a portion of the township's road allowance between concession 1 and 2, lot 10, located south of the property municipally addressed as 418 County Road 32 and west of the property addressed as 260 County Road 32, and to permit improvements to said road allowance to access the property identified by roll number 0812-812-010-01200, and that the applicants be responsible for the construction cost and maintenance of the access road where it is located on the unopened road allowance, and that the applicants enter into an agreement with the township to regulate the use of the portion of the unopened road allowance subject to the said application in the form satisfactory to township legal counsel, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement. Motions on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Burrell.
Thank you. And through you, your worship, just a question about the upgrade to the road that the applicant is responsible for. Would that be the entire road allowance, number one, or just the portion that is the township right of way? And B, the second question would be, are we asking for a certain standard to be met, or is it just that's okay? It's one, it's a residence, right? In other words, how much burden are we putting on that owner? Thank you.
CAO, acting CAO, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you. We're really not putting any additional burden on the owner. So the road allowance as it exists where it's crossing, if it functions for the purpose that the land is being used for, there's absolutely no need for upgrade. What the agreement that they would be required to enter into speaks to liability, so that if it indemnifies the township where they're crossing on our property, and essentially says if you do improvements, you have to get all of the correct approvals. So say there was a CRCA permit, but there wouldn't be in this area, but it just means that they get the right approvals to do it and that they run it by us before they do anything. So the area would be defined within the agreement. So the application, I believe it was 20 meters wide by 13.5 meters deep. So it would apply to that area as defined in the agreement.
And just to be clear, so we're not really asking someone if they wanted to build a house back on that property. We are not asking them to be what Lex Road turned out to be, because that was residential properties being sold. Is that right? So that had to meet a different setback. That is not what we are asking of the owner. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is currently a rural property. It can continue to be a rural property, and it can continue to just be an agricultural farm access.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor, maybe go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to our acting CAO. And just to go on Councillor Gorell's comment there, if there was ever a development request for that property, then they would have to go through all the processes and protocols and processes, as well as upgrading infrastructure to meet the demand of the request.
So through you, just to be clear, when you say development proposal, the existing zoning is rural. It allows farm uses, agricultural uses. It would allow a single family residential use. If a building were to go back there, if a single family dwelling were to be proposed back there, it would be up to the owner to determine what standard they're going to upgrade to. As long as there's appropriate civic addressing at the road to direct emergency services to them, that's the extent of our involvement.
Yes. And if any further development was thought of for it, they would have to go full bore with a request to us, and all the fees and surveys
That's correct.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, if there was a more in-depth proposal proposed for that back area, it would be subject to a public process, a zoning bylaw amendment. We would have to look at the suitability of the road and the access, the
Yes.
impact on the adjacent properties. So it'd be a much more fulsome process.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Fode.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, along the same vein of Councillor Maybe, should that scenario play out, that would trigger an actual survey at that point, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I see no hands, so I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried. Next item is 4.2 CN Rail Proclamation Request Rail Safety Week 2024, moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman. Whereas Rail Safety Week is to be held across Canada from September 23rd to the 29th, 2024. Whereas 229 railway crossing and trespassing incidents occurred in Canada in 2023, resulting in 66 avoidable fatalities and 39 avoidable serious injuries. And whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railway rights of way are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with the highway rail grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities and injuries caused by incidents involving trains and citizens. And whereas Operation Lifesaver is a public-private partnership whose aim is to work with the public, rail industry, governments, police services, media, and others to raise rail safety awareness. And whereas CN and Operation Lifesaver have requested Township Council to adopt this resolution in support of its ongoing efforts to raise awareness, save lives, and prevent injuries in communities, including our municipality. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands support National Rail Safety Week to be held from September 23rd to the 29th, 2024. Discussion on the motion? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry. It's interesting when they read it and about the safety of our residents and such. But we are still wanting to hear about the resolve of pulling out a beaver dam and how much impact that had on our residents too. So it's kind of an interesting scenario that they are indeed wanting to be safe. But when it comes to our own safety within our municipality, a little bit of knowledge or communication would have gone a long way to help mitigate some serious issues that happened in our township and on our roadways. So thank you.
Fair enough. Duly noted. Any further comment or question? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fode.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll use the same term on that same vein as Councillor Maybe. I gather there's no update from CN.
I have not heard. I know there was discussions with lawyers again a couple months ago, but I have not found out if there's been resolve to that. But I can inquire and will inquire.
All right.
I will be there on Thursday.
One of the residents, well, the couple that were impacted the most, I encountered them at the fairground on the weekend, and they were asking that very question. And I told them we had a meeting tonight and I would ask that question. But Councillor Maybe's right. CN makes it look like they're on top of their game for safety, when in fact we know as a municipality that's not totally the case. And what worries me that this could happen again. And I would like to see them step up the plate whenever this is all come to fruition and state somehow unequivocally that there's a order of conduct that will be put in place.
So with council's permission, I'm not saying that we should amend the motion. I think the motion is fairly straightforward and clear, but with council, I could always also write a letter saying we've approved this, which I believe we would be letting them know, but that we have concerns because of an incident that happened twice in the same spot and that it still isn't resolved. So you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth.
That's right.
Would that be fair? Okay, now I have another hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Just play devil's advocate. What if we don't approve it? Period. What happens then?
Well, I think this is a symbolic gesture, but go ahead. To your point, I'll recognize Councilor Jameson.
I think we should attach an invoice. I believe that they owe us a little bit of money.
Well, they don't owe us, they owe the county.
Well, it seems to me that our crews were involved in a lot of extra effort to try to work through that thing. We had problems with some of our citizens. So if you're going to send them a letter, you might as well send them an invoice for whatever we think is reasonable. At least
Well,
it gets their
well,
attention.
I will quite look forward to having a conversation with our acting CAO and our director of operations once he returns from holidays in regards to how that might look. I think it would be a very interesting thing, whether we approve this or not. I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't, but I think if I'm not gonna sway the vote one way or the other, but I'll make my comment once the vote. Go ahead, Councillor Grau.
So when we, if we were to approve this proclamation, could we not send to the Minister of Transportation
A copy of the letter.
precisely? I mean, it's
Absolutely.
got to go up the ladder, and maybe the Deputy Minister of Transportation as well. Thank you. Why don't we really? And
Well,
the invoice.
And at the end of the day, the whole point of this motion is to talk about safety and looking, listening, and ensuring both motoring and pedestrians have safe passage. But how they maintain those roads is part of that safety.
They
So
fail.
sure did.
Thank you.
Anyways, so whether we approve this or not, anyways, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fode.
Thank you, Worship, through you. I can't help but think back, most of us saw the damage that was done that day. If kids had been riding bicycles or just being kids in that driveway, I asked the owners how long it took for that driveway to be washed out, and to their best they can recall, it was about a minute or less.
Oh,
They said the erosion just come overwhelming like a tsunami. And they said the material in the east side of the driveway kept rolling over to the material on the west side of the driveway to the point there was no driveway. And CN sends this out like they're some kind of gods of safety, when in fact, in that particular instance, and then repeated it, that was the gall of it all. Like there's a complete lack of accountability down through their ladder and back up again somewhere that doesn't address this from being repeated. And I hope we're not here to address a three-peat.
not either.
But anyway, no, I think Councillor Jameson and Grell maybe are really on to something here. I like it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the question on the motion as it's presented, but with the knowledge that I've been directed by council to send confirmation of whether we pass this or put it down with our concerns, okay? And an invoice. Okay, I'm calling the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Okay, next item, mayor's update. I already did that in committee of the whole, so you're off the hook. Bylaws 6.1 and 6.2. There's two bylaws there. Oh no, sorry. Moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that 3 readings and final passage be granted bylaw number 24-036. That 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 24-038, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds in the Thousand Islands at its July 22nd, 2024 special council meeting. All those in favor of the motion at hand? All those opposed? It's carried. And motion to adjourn is from Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that council adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you, everyone.